Shalom, everyone. Welcome back to the Grounded Seeds podcast. And we are here with another episode of Holiness and Ordinary Things. And as you might have noticed, it's three of us this time. And for those of you who don't know, on my left-hand side, I guess, right-hand side, is Avinesh Leo Fernandez. For those of you who do not know who Avinesh is, he's the guy that's behind all of the posters that we have been putting out for our live notices. So all our promotional posters that have been going out, he's the man behind that. His creativity, his talent, he's been putting it all into creating those posters, and he's done a good job with every single week something new that's coming out. And on my other side, we have Jonathan Charanraj. For those of you who remember, Jonathan joined us on our very first session of Sharing Seeds, and he spoke about Saint Augustine. He definitely started it off strong with Saint Augustine, Doctor of the Church, and we have both of them here today because today we will be talking about how we find holiness in the ordinary things throughout our studies and our study life. So it doesn't matter whether you're still going through your education, whether you finished your education, or whether you've taken a break from education, because in reality, we are all learning in some way or another, and we are all picking up new things every day. So with that, let's just get straight into it. But before we dive into the whole main topic, let's just quickly get a background from Avinesh and John, from the both of them, to see really where they are coming from, what their university life is like or has been like for them. So any of you guys would like to go first?
Avi?
Can lah. Okay. So,
All right, cool.
my name is Avinesh, as John already mentioned. I'm 22 this year. I'm from Ipoh. And the thing is, we're all from Ipoh, so yeah.
Yep.
And but I'm not from the same parish as them. I'm from Our Lady of Lourdes in Silibin. And I'm currently going to my third year. I'm doing my degree in computer science in UKM. So there are ups and downs in your degree life. This is my first time being in the campus. So I took Form 6 before this. So I'm still at home for the 20 years of my life. And I learned a lot of things being in university, and can't wait to share some of it with you all. Yeah, that's all.
All right. John, what about you?
Hi guys, I'm Jonathan. I'm also from Ipoh. I'm together with John in OMPH. And I too did my STPM, same like Avi. So 20 years of my life have been in Ipoh, going to normal school. And now I'm doing nothing. I'm currently jobless, officially unemployed, I would say. I just finished graduating last week actually. And I did my degree in aerospace engineering in University of Science Malaysia. And a small heads up to you guys, whoever wants to go to USM. You get engineering, you just know that you will be in mainland. You won't be on Penang Island. So yeah, better tell you early so that you don't get culture shock. And there were a lot of ups and downs as well in my university life, especially how it related back to my faith. So can't wait to share with you guys as we go on. Thank you.
Interesting that you mentioned that about the separation of campuses, because is there a thing going on between mainland and island or something?
I would say there's this unwritten difference because
right.
because everybody the whole of Malaysia knows it's main campus, so the main campus people will be the special ones, and then we are The normal ones, the mainland ones.
Understandable, because I kind of went through that. Actually, you know what? I should probably share about my own experience as well, because I did study as well. I have graduated. I am working now, but that doesn't mean that, I've completely left my study life behind. So, for those of you who don't know, straight after I finished my SPM, I took the fast track and went straight to foundation. I took a foundation course in IT, and then immediately went on straight to my 3 years of degree. So no break in between for me between secondary school and college university life. I just went full steam ahead like a bullet train, And yeah, I took a degree in digital forensics, or some would call it forensic computing. And what it is, it's almost like what you watch on CSI. Almost. I say almost because we do not solve a case within 45 minutes. That's why I say almost. But yes, I agree again with Avinesh and Jonathan Charanraj that university life is a bit different, because for most of our lives growing up, we grew up in our parents' house, or at least we've grown up with some sort of parental supervision. And for some of us, when we step into university life, it comes to that point where we have to leave our parents' house. And when we step out there into a new chapter of our lives, we find that we are 100% responsible for everything that we do now. A lot of times we say that we want to take that independence for ourselves. But when we really do take it, we find that there are a lot of challenges that come along the way. And especially more so when we are trying to study and balance the rest of our life with our studies. So we tend to get lost in that world of studying, living, and we tend to put faith and holiness in the back seat. We tend to, I wouldn't say take it for granted, but we tend to diminish its value. So today we are just here to remind everyone and encourage everyone on how we can rethink this whole virtue of studying. Like, we're so blessed as human beings that we've been given a mind and the ability to gain knowledge by studying. And this is a gift that God has given especially to humans. And it's something that we do not offer enough thanks for. We do not offer up enough thanks for being able to study and all. And so, for the both of you, let's just go back to the first few weeks of when you guys actually stepped into college life. You stepped into your tertiary education. How was that for you guys? Like, did you think at that point in time that things in your life, especially when it came to your faith and your spirituality, did you think at that time that things were going to change, or were they going to kind of remain the same as they were when you were not, not out there doing focusing on your degree and all that?
So I'll go first lah. I have to recall back because can't finish already. So go back 4 years. To quickly answer your question, I actually had a feeling that it would definitely change, and the reason is because you're not with your parents. I think that's the main thing lah. You're not with your parents anymore, so you're not with someone who pushes you or reminds you or holds you accountable to your faith.
Right.
So I was aware that how my faith would change, and how my faith would change actually is like I'm the one who's responsible lah. So I think it's important to realize that it's in your hands.
Yeah,
What you're gonna do.
your faith is your own, so you have to claim that responsibility as well.
Yeah, exactly. So once I realized that early on, it gave me a good opportunity to like plan and be aware of whether I'm being consistent or whether I'm falling astray.
Right.
So, like during the first few weeks of university life, it was very different for me because I did STPM, right? So, all of my other friends, my classmates, and my other batchmates, they were from Matrix, so they were already used to staying on their own, and this includes like not only keeping up with the faith, but also like doing basic things like doing your laundry, getting food, ironing your clothes, and being punctual with time. So that was something that I had to learn as well from my classmates. And then with my faith life, because when I was 17, I learned how to drive. So I became the family driver. So I had to like tell what time we are going to go for mass because I'm the one driving.
Right.
So that was my responsibility. So because I did that, it trained me to like always think of like mass, going for mass. So when I went for university, that was like the thing that was also in my head like I was thinking of what's going to come study wise, but also how am I going to keep up with my faith. So thankfully there was like this society called the CSS, Catholic Student Society, and in it there's like the seniors and all. So those seniors really helped me to help all of us not only me, help all of us to keep up with our faith. They would plan the mass times for us, and they would inform us, okay, this weekend we are going to this church and get ready by this time and meet where. And one thing was that a lot of students would show up like the starting because can we all first years, right? We are very excited, and that time during the first few weeks of semester, you won't have that many assignments and projects. So memang your time is free. Memang we will go for mass lah. So that's like the first few weeks of how it went, and they will have like the seniors will also like organize some introduction event or like getting to know each other, ice breaking, and also those also were heavily like the sambutan was a lot of but so that was like the first few weeks of university. Then later on we will share also later. Yeah, Avi?
Almost same because I was from Form 6. But there's one thing I want to tell, like during Form 6, right, all the teachers, they will tell you this, you take Form 6, you'll be prepared for uni. They always mention this thing. I mean, it is true in terms of studies, but they forgot to mention that when you go to uni, you'll be alone. So like, I sort of believed them, like, okay, I did Form 6, so uni shouldn't be hard. But when I went to uni, like, oh my God, I have to wash my clothes. I have to clean my room. I have to buy food myself. And it's not just one-time food, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And breakfast, I have to prepare myself. And going to class, like, I actually got my car license late. So like, throughout my schooling life, I will ride a bike, school and all that. But then in uni again, like, no transport, anything. So like, everything you have to do yourself. As you said, I had to be like very independent. And about my faith life as well, unlike you, I didn't have a car license when I was 17. I actually only got my car license after Form 6. So it was very long. So always at home, when I want to go to mass, I'll follow my dad, family, my sister and all that. So all I had to do was wake up that day, bathe, sit in the car, and then I'll be at church.
Right.
And then come back. That's all finished. So like the only effort I had to do was wake up to go for mass. And then in uni, like I didn't know like which church was the nearest and all. But thankfully, even in my campus, we had this CSS, and the seniors were very good. They introduced us to like the parish priest, the sister that comes to our campus and talk like every week. We have like fellowship every Fridays. So as you said, the first few weeks there were a lot of people. Time went on, and
they slowly left. Everyone reaches that point in their uni life where they like, do I really need to go for church? And it's, at first I thought this was a funny thing, because honestly I went through this as well, sooner than I expected, because I thought that, since I grew up like being a part of it was that I grew up being so close to a church. Like OMPH is about less than 5 minutes away from my house, and that I was an altar server for so many years, that I've helped serve in the church for so many different ways. The first thing I thought is like, when I go to KL, it will be no problem for me to keep this thing going. But I soon found out, like within the first 4 months, I was already starting to make excuses and saying that church was far away. And that's why I couldn't make it on time. I didn't want to go. Because excuses are easy to come up with when you know that when you yourself are the one that's justifying those excuses, But in reality is that you're not breaking any promises to yourself, but you're rather breaking a promise to God when you say that, yes, Lord, I will continue to go to church all these days. But in reality is that you've promised God that this time, this day, you will be in church, and He will be there whether or not you are there. It's just that you've broken your promise with Him. And in both of your experiences, you have communities to help you guys, right? You have communities that you guys can bond with, can learn from each other. And I did not have that kind of experience. There was no Christian society, there was no Catholic society at all. In fact, there were no religious societies at all in my university because they were strongly against it. But I would like to hear from the both of you, like how have these communities helped you like grow in your spiritual life, or whether they've like actually helped you maintain at the pace you were going?
So for like in my experience, being in the CSS, first I was like normal member, but it was very short lived because due to some circumstances, after the first semester, that means going into the second semester, a few of us first years were made into committee members, where actually it's supposed to be the second years become committee members to third years. But then there was no one, there was like a gap. So we had to become lah. So I think that was a very good opportunity lah. Although it was quite fast, like sometimes people will say you need to take some time and learn all the works of how society works. Then only you slowly masuk. But then we were like pushed into it. But it gave us a good opportunity to learn something new at such an early stage. And it was good for me because I learned how to be a leader. But being a leader in a normal club and being a leader in a, like for in this case, a Catholic society is two different things. Because like if you're just a leader in a normal society, say for example like the environment society, you only need to be good at management. Like you just need to manage those around, those below you, and you need to keep track of all the activities and the resources being used. But if you're in a spiritual society, so for example, a religious society like our Catholic student society, not only have to be good in management, like as in managing the events or organizing events and managing how students are going for mass, you also need to be really strong in your prayer life. So that's something that, because students look up to you, you are like not only the leader, but you're also like the religious leader that people look up to you. So your faith also needs to be really strong. And when you organize, like for us, our case, when we organize events for students, for example, like Bible study, it's not like we appoint people to handle the Bible study sessions. It's we ourselves. So that's why I was saying like we have to also be strong and knowledgeable in our faith. And because of that, lah, that's how the situation is. Lah. That, and because of that, how I reacted or responded to it is it helped me with my faith, and like the fruits of it was it helped me to learn more about my faith, because Bible study, like there's things where you're not really like um, being the leader, like telling them, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. It's more like, okay, let's learn this together. Let's learn. Maybe you know something that I don't know. So, but like I just like, okay, how about you? Do you know? Would you like to say anything? Like, so it's a really open session. So because of that, I learned a lot myself, like, in my faith, and because of that, that's how I managed to like keep up with my faith throughout the 4 years in my university. That's how we supported each other. We held each other accountable as well. As in, like, when someone doesn't go for mass, we ask, like, hey, anything wrong or not? Is there like a reason why you're not going for mass? We help, like, we support each other. We make sure that everyone is on the right path. I think that's like it teaches us also as the student leaders to not only think about ourselves, we also think about others, their faith. And it's very meaningful when the students make a choice, like a deliberate choice, also to respond back and come for the events or come for mass. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Avi?
Yeah, for me, I was in the CSS as a normal member, but I wasn't in the board or anything.
Mhm.
And like I said, the first few weeks, we were in a big group. We will go to church together and all. Because I won't say the church is far, but the journey is long. Because we had to take the bus, and then it won't stop right in front of the church. We had to like cross a huge drain and all at Kajang.
Oh, Holy Family
okay, church,
Kajang.
Holy Family Kajang. Yeah, it's a
Right,
beautiful
okay, yeah.
church. So I think one mistake I did was I was too reliant on this community to the point where when the numbers started decreasing, then when I didn't have any friends to go with, even I stopped going for mass. And actually, it was, I'm not sure if it's weeks or months, but I've stopped going to church for that long. I mean, I didn't leave the faith, just that I stopped going to church. And there came a time when I felt like, I cannot be this, I cannot be doing this. I have to like take up my responsibility and just go to church. So one day I decided to just get up, take the bus, go alone. It was scary, of course. I was not afraid of my safety. I was just afraid of getting lost. But thankfully I reached the church. And what do you know? I reached the church 45 minutes earlier. So I was just sitting inside the church, and it's a beautiful church, right? So I kept looking around, admiring while praying and all. And suddenly I saw two friends. They are one guy and one girl. They are from my same hostel. They're also in CSS. And they happened to come mass that same day. And they saw me, and then they were like, hey, you're here. They're like, hey, you are here. Then we sat together. And then since then, we go to mass together, always together. And like John C said, when one of us, like, let's say we are too busy or too tired to go for mass, one of us, one of the three of us will make sure, like, hey, no, you're coming. And we'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay lah, I come lah. So, still not totally independent, but in a way, like, there's a balance lah.
Right.
And yeah.
I mean, it's true that community, especially in universities and colleges, they do help you, and they do encourage you, as you should encourage each other to, like, continue living your faith, continue to go for mass, keeping yourself active in the faith, and in a way also learning more about your faith, which is also studying the faith, which relates to our topic today, but more on that later. But here's the thing, that community that you have, all right, that you journey with, what happens when the time comes for you to graduate, or in this case, when something strikes the world and everyone has to kind of like disband, go their separate ways. What happens to the people in the community at that point? Like, I mean, probably in your case, like, you can say that, okay, you've taken that responsibility upon yourself to learn more about the faith, and you are confident enough that even if you do have to leave that community, you know that you can carry on by yourself, at least until you find another community to belong to. But would you guys say that, this is something that all people should think about, like all students should think about? Because eventually they're all going to graduate. Eventually they're all going to have to say goodbye to that CSS community they've been journeying with for maybe 3 years, 4 years. It's like, how can they as students, like, how can they take the initiative on their own to build up their own faith and be confident enough that when they leave, they will leave with the strength to be able to hold their own out in the real world?
Okay, so that's a very good question.
Yeah, probably from your own experiences as well, like how you guys have, developed it in your own ways.
So, like, to answer like the first one, like, is it how do you view it, as in, is it as important or not? Or for me, definitely it's like very, very important, because if you don't keep that in mind, then because the pressures in life is always moving forward. So whether you like it or not, you will go through school, go through university, and then you go out into the working world. And so you have the responsibility of whether or not you want to keep up with your faith. So that's why I said, and when you are going through the path in life, whether you like it or not, you will have to go through it. So there will come a point where you will eventually be alone. If not, like forever, maybe for a while, like just for a while, or maybe a certain season where you will be alone. And alone as in, like, you will have friends probably, but for example, you won't have like someone who is the same faith as you. In that sense, alone lah. So that's why I said it's really, really important for you to prepare yourself or equip yourself or build a habit. As they say, it takes how many, John, how many days? Like, how many days to build a habit?
Is something.
Okay. Like 21 days?
I believe it is 30 days to be a habit, 90 days to be a lifestyle, something like that.
Yeah, so it falls on you to do it like that, to build that habit and to make it a lifestyle. And it, how to say, you need to know that there will come a time where your life will be, you will be alone lah. And if you do all those like early work, later on it will be easy for you because it's already part of your life. It's part of who you are, and it will be easy for you, even though you have to go for mass alone. Yeah.
True, especially when you are in like probably the early stages of your university life when you have more time, more free time to do things and all. It's like get into the habit and the lifestyle at this point in time. Because definitely later on you'll be so caught up with your work and your studies and your assignments that sometimes if you try to start it then it's going to be difficult because you're trying to slot your prayer life in when your whole schedule is filled up by studies and work and revision and all that. But instead, if you do it the other way around, where you take your study, your revision time and all, and you try and slot it into your prayer life, then it takes a whole different meaning because your prayer life, that comes first. And then once your studies and all become part of your prayer life, it sounds weird, but there's a good explanation for that. Then it really takes a whole different meaning because you already have that prayer life down as your lifestyle. And everything else that you do around your prayer life, it's just helping to build it up. So any of you guys have to add on?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And I just want to add that from my experience as a student, I understand it'll be hard sometimes to find time to pray, like find time as in like when you're alone and quiet, especially in public universities, if you have a roommate and all, it'll be very hard. And especially if the roommate is not the same faith and all.
Right.
So what I have learned from my experience, the way I pray is not just, I don't just sit down quietly in one place and start praying. I sort of speak to God within my heart while doing other things, So like, let's say in the morning I wake up, I'm having my breakfast. It'll be very quiet, right? Early morning.
Right.
I'll be just speaking to God. I'll be thanking Him for this day. I'll be praying ahead for what's to come and all that. And let's say I'm studying and I find something hard. Of course, I can choose to be stressed about it and then I scream like, oh my God, why can't I understand this and all? But instead I like, God, help me, guide me to understand whatever it is. Because as believers of Christ, we are created in His image and likeness, right? And if God created this whole universe and all those complex things that come with it, I'm sure He can just help you a bit to understand what you're studying. So I know it's not usual to pray like this, but through circumstances, this is how I try to handle it.
I mean, the way you are going about it is actually, it really is saying the title of our podcast today, in the ordinary things, in the ordinary study life that we all go through, you still are able to find that time to talk with God, to walk with Him every day on a daily basis. And you turn to Him in your times of need. You turn to Him and you ask Him for help. You are surrendering the problems that you come across in your studies, with your friends, or maybe with your lecturers or anything, and you're surrendering it to God instead of saying like, you know what, I got this, I don't need any help, I'm not going to be able to succeed in life if I cannot find this out on my own. But we still need to rely on God, because if we were to live our lives in full independence of God, then we're not really living much for anything. So live our lives, especially in our study lives, when we live it in the dependence of God, we find that everything becomes easier. It may not mean simple, it might not mean shorter, but it is bearable, and we realize that we can push through our troubles. We can push through our assignments, our revisions, and our exams. And I know, Avinesh, that you have a really, really good story of how God has helped you through your exams, and in turn, a little special twist. So, would you mind sharing with everyone here?
Is it the one about my friends?
Yes.
Oh, okay. so, computer science is something I'm really interested in, right? So, but I didn't know I was really interested in this field until like after Form 6. So, because before that, I was like, I don't know what I was going to study. I just didn't have an aim in life, you know. And going through Form 6, I realized I really liked technology, computers, not just computers, but anything to do with technology. So I decided to take up this degree in computer science. And thank God, with all his blessings, I was able to do somewhat well. And so my roommate, my classmate, my batchmates, all of them, they are not Catholic or Christian. So whenever during results, right, when they see me getting a bit higher than them, they'll be like, hey, we studied together, right? How come yours different? And then sometimes they will jokingly say, right, like, oh, he's a Christian, that's why. And then there have been times where they even joked about following me to Mass, and they want to convert so that they can also score good grades and all. And so my CSS once organized a Christmas party, and it was open to anyone to join. So I used this opportunity to invite my friends. And I mean, I cannot say I've converted them right there and then, but I feel like it is a start to something.
Right, true. You see, it's a very amazing thing that your friends recognize that it is not just you alone that is getting that's actually what makes you so good in your studies, you know. Even they who are not Christians or anything, they know that what you believe in is the reason why you are able to score higher than them at times. And it's amazing that, you know, even throughout all that, even though they are joking and all, there is something that's deep within them that's longing to be able to receive those kind of graces from God, you know. I'm pretty sure that every time they look at you, they think about you, and they're like, my gosh, Avinesh like scored what, 4.0?
No, not that high.
Okay, probably 3.7, 3.8, you know, and they're like, oh my gosh, if that's what studying and then praying to God can get me, now I want to become a Christian as well.
Sign me up.
Yeah, it's like sign me up for that.
Who knows, right? I have another 1 year, so I still got time to convert them.
Yeah. And it's amazing because even in the middle of your studies, God's using you through your studies, through your exams and your exam results to evangelize to other people. And that's not just one or two people, right? That's like quite a few people as well, a few of your friends.
At least 5.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. And yeah, coming to the actual topic of studying itself. Of all the fruits and gifts of the Holy Spirit, the gifts of the Holy Spirit that we are given, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, these are the 3 gifts that we put into practice every time we study. And most of all, we need to gain knowledge, and that's why we study. And from that knowledge, we have the wisdom to know when to put that knowledge into use.
Yes.
And also from studying, we begin to understand more of how the world works. We begin to understand more about what we are studying is related to what we want to do in our future career. Like, John, you took aerospace engineering. And that's for like a very specific reason. You have an interest in planes, right?
Yeah.
And Avinesh, your interest in computers and everything tech, that is what drove you to take up computer science. And for
Yes.
me, I'm not sure how to say this, but I think it's an interest for,
Hacking.
yeah, don't take hacking as something bad, okay? There are bad hackers, but there are
Yeah.
good hackers as well.
Good to
My
know you're
interest
good.
in hacking, although it started off as for doing something bad, I'm now turning it into something that's good. And I'm using this interest that I have in hacking, solving crimes, and fighting for justice. I'm using it to do what I am doing right now, which is providing a service to other people, other companies, to help them bring them to justice. Like where justice is needed, that's where I go. I work on the cases, and whoever needs to be brought to justice, justice will be served. And in a way, these are all the gifts and talents each of us have been blessed with by God. And yes, we can just take a gift. We can take, for example, say, we can take the gift and talent of music, because the three of us, we're all musicians. Yes, we can take that, we can receive it from God, and we can say, like, play the C major scale on a keyboard. But what happens if we don't learn more about music? What happens if we don't learn about the theory of music? I think for most of our life, what we will know is just the C major scale. Everything we do in music will revolve around the C major scale. We won't be able to play songs in different keys. We won't be able to know how to transpose, how to change into different keys. And realizing it now, that because of the way that we study about music, we learn, we gain the knowledge, we understand music, it allows us to be good musicians, right? And
Yeah.
in the same way that this gift of being able to study, to put all of this into good use, we are asked to give this back to God as an offering. Like in all that we do, even in studying, we give it up as offering, we give it up as thanksgiving, as a petition. And John, I know you have something to say about this, so without further ado, just go ahead and like inspire us with this whole notion about studying and it itself being a prayer.
Okay, so first off, I would like to acknowledge like what John said, like talking about how the Holy Spirit, the gifts and the fruits of the Holy Spirit, where we have the gift of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. I think that's a very, very important thing that he pointed out for us today. And he said everything, but I want to add on and say that it gives us a sense of awe that God was thinking of us as students as well. Like he knew that students would exist in his infinite knowledge, and that we would have struggles in whatever we face in our student life. And him bestowing upon us these gifts helps us through our student life. And of course, these gifts won't be meaningful if we don't have hardship and struggling in the first place. Like we need to have those first, then we will realize, wow, the gift of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding becomes meaningful to us. And I feel like when we acknowledge that as students, I feel it becomes our way of, it empowers us as students of Christ to put more time, more mindfulness, more awareness in what we are doing. And that's how this leads to how we can offer up our studies, the time and energy we put into our studies as a prayer. we can offer it up as a prayer, and we can, well, how to say, we are able to also glorify God in how we study, because in the Bible it says that in everything we do, we eat or we drink, everything we do can be a form of glorification to God, and everything also includes studying. So, like if we realize this as students, we will, whenever the next time we want to study, it changes our perspective on what is studying. So like it doesn't make us seem like we are doing something difficult or chore, or like I have to study. You so malas on study. It changes our way of thinking what studying is, because now we see it as a way of glorifying God. We're doing this also for God, and we are giving back like all our hardship and efforts. We can give it back in a form of prayer, and we can offer it up for a prayer in all sorts of things. We can pray for the unborn. We can offer it up as a prayer for people, like for our frontliners, like for example in this current time.
Right.
We can offer up our heart, the act of studying as just thanksgiving, as just something that we thank God for the ability to have this time and this effort that we can, this energy that we can study. And once we are able to shift our focus and realize that God did this for us, it's actually for us. Studying, He put what this thing called studying in our lives is for us. It's for us to achieve things and to give back to our community, because the community is God's community, and we have a responsibility to it. And God gave us the gift of knowledge to learn, to go through it, and then the wisdom to apply it and to help our community. We offer all of that to God. We submit all of that to God. We surrender it to God. And we understand that, okay, this is how we're doing it, why we are doing it, and we can keep doing it. That's the important thing. It's not that you just do it once, but you can keep doing it because we understand that what we are doing it is for God's kingdom, God's greater glory. Yeah.
And
That's all. Thank you.
yeah, true. Because it's not that studying is only a small part of our life. Studying is something that lasts our whole life. As long as we are living here on earth, there is something new to be discovered every single day. There is something that we can learn more about. If we know the basics, there's something we can learn more about. And as Christians, we should take this in the same way about our faith. Like, yes, we know that we are learning general things every single day, but are we really learning more and more about our faith? Are we really studying our faith? Like, some people have actually told me that no, you do not question faith at all. You just believe it and go with it. But at times it is good to question, because only by questioning it you are driven to find answers. And when you do find the answers, that's when you realize that yes, that whole reason why I had that question in the first place has now been explained to me, and I can believe more firmly now why I believed what I believed before. And even though I had questioned it at that point of time, I can now come back and say I believe in it more firmly because I have found the answers to my question. And it's something not a lot of people actually take initiative in doing. And that it's true, because a lot of people, they like to either move with the flow or just like stay where they are, you know. Very few people actually take those steps into learning more on their own without someone encouraging them to like start studying about the faith or what. So if that's the case, today the three of us would like to encourage you out there, start studying about the faith. Like, if you are really worried about other people coming up to you and asking you about your faith, start learning apologetics. Like, learn how to defend your faith and learn why, as Christians, we believe what we believe. And, like, it's just amazing because once you start studying about it, the more you want to know, the more knowledge and wisdom you gain. You begin to understand it more. And through all that, like John, you said earlier, we can contribute back to society. And this is something that's just profound because that is what Jesus Christ did with his apostles. He came down, he taught them, he gave them his teachings, his law, his commandments, and the apostles, they learned from Jesus. They were studying at the same time. And when Pentecost came around, they were filled with the Holy Spirit and they went out and proclaimed it to all the ends of the earth. And that right there, they even called Jesus a teacher. Whoa. They called Jesus a teacher because yes, he did teach them all this and they themselves were students. They learned from him. In the same way, we should all apply this to our own lives. The apostles, the disciples, the saints, everyone, they are learning from Jesus. And we should all do the same as well. So, we shall move on to the questions for today. And the first question that I have is actually this. Now that with the whole MCO, social distancing, online learning thing that has been going on, how has that impacted your spiritual life? Like, whether it's in a good way or a bad way, it doesn't matter, but how has it impacted it? Because you have more time to yourself. Most people probably they would have been at home, so they are actually quite free, and they don't have to spend all that time traveling to campus, going for class, and then traveling back. So, but in both of your cases, how would you say that this MCO and this time of lockdown has affected your lives in your study and spiritually as well? Anyone?
Okay. So this MCO has really opened my eyes. Like, I was saying, I was a student, I didn't have time to pray and all. So when this MCO started, when I'm back at home, I started realizing like how much I was lacking in prayer and all, And thankfully, I had the seeds. I also had the breakthroughs. And with these two groups, I managed to bring back prayer into my life. Like real sitting down quietly and praying, instead of like talking to yourself. Talking within yourself and all. So, and it has like made me realize like how important prayer is, even though you are busy and all. So like we still have to find time and all, because the feelings that I felt throughout the prayers during MCO, right? Like it's a whole different feeling, like I'll be feeling stressed the whole week and all, and then when I sit down and pray, it'll be like, wow, so calm, so peaceful. And I think a lot of us, if we are lacking in prayer and all, we were missing out in this throughout our lives and when we were busy and all that. So MCO has made me realize like we have to somehow take responsibility and start back praying harder.
Right. John, anything from you?
For me, it was also really eye-opening. And for me, maybe something different from other people was when MCO lockdown started, everyone went back home, but I stayed back in campus. So it was really different because it was really, really quiet at that time in campus, where like everyone was advised to not like move so much and do like self quarantine, especially like the first month, because we don't like logically like I don't want to infect others and all. So everyone always kept themselves in their rooms, and I was a single room, so I had no roommates. So it was always like me alone in the room, and alone with my thoughts and with and I can say that it's very important to keep up the faith in those times, because when you're alone with your thoughts, your mind can go very, very different places, a lot of things. So in that sense, like I was really grateful to for the six lah, because we together we took the initiative to do something for our faith. Like we had like prayer watch and rosary and daily prayer. So because of these small things, I like personally also I used to like pray, keep up doing the prayer, and whenever I felt like really stressed, I would pray. That's the first thing that I would do. And the only reason why this happened is because I was like forced into this situation of isolation where I had no one to turn to physically lah, or no one to talk to physically about how I was feeling. And by having someone to talk to, which is God, through prayer, it helped me to be like really calm, helped me to stay focused on my studies, because like other students they'll be at home, so maybe their parents will just remind them to, make sure they study, but I had no one to keep me in check, and all my friends also balik, like my classmates, my roommates also balik, so like it was different, like you had to maintain. So God helped me like stay on the correct path lah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Our second question is more towards you and your friends, because it is, how do you find the balance between spending time with your Catholic friends and your non-Christian friends? Because this is probably something that we have covered in one of our previous podcasts, Holiness and Ordinary Things and Friendships. So if you guys want to like relate to that in any way, between your own experiences, feel free to do so.
Mine, I cannot say much because my non-Catholic friends and Catholic friends were quite, my non-Catholic friends were quite understanding of how my faith was and how our beliefs differ, but they were quite understanding lah. So whenever we did anything or we discussed anything, they always kept it in mind. So we respected each other's opinions as well lah. So because of that, for me it was not that difficult lah, to balance my non-Catholic friends and Catholic friends. Avi, how was your experience?
Yep.
Same also lah, because all my friends knew I was Catholic, and of course like they knew and all that. They were making jokes, right? So like,
yeah,
I also didn't have any problems. And the thing is, my Catholic friends, the two friends I told you that I go to church with, they're also from my same hostel. So like, it's like sometimes I'll meet my friends, non-Catholics. And let's say I go have lunch, I'll see my Catholic friends. So it's like there was a balance, and even my Catholic friends, they knew my non-Catholic friends. So it was like we all knew each other. So for me, it was normal, like no problem.
Natural, right?
That's natural.
Yeah, and that's quite nice to hear that you can all get along despite the differences in what you guys believe in and all. I mean, you definitely do not want to isolate yourself, especially in your university life, just because of the things you believe in your faith. You still want to maintain those friendships with your friends and all. But I mean, let's all agree that there are certain lines that we have to draw that we shouldn't cross at all.
Yeah.
So moving on to our last question for today. Do you think that whatever you are studying now will not only be useful for your future job, but also useful in ministry and serving the church, or rather in building God's kingdom on earth. What you two guys think? I'll go first because I kind of want to say that at first I thought that, this is something that wouldn't ever happen to me. Like, what is it about digital forensics and cybersecurity that has to do in relation with Catholicism, Christianity? It's like, it made no sense to me at the time until I read last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, this piece of news that brought me to a whole new I don't even know how to describe it, so I'm just going to tell you what happened. I was reading the news on this cybersecurity forum, and this headline popped up at me. Vatican gets hacked ahead of talks with China. And I was like, the Vatican got hacked? Well, I know where I'm working 10 years from now. So next time you need a Catholic forensic investigator, you know where to find me. I'll be in Rome. But yeah, coming from you guys, how do you think what you're learning now will help benefit your ministry and benefit the society around you?
Interesting. I never thought about this, but only thing I can think of, because now in our times we are moving towards digital more and more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even our classes nowadays, it's all online. And the course I'm taking, it's one of the job scope is someone who can say moderates or handles all this system, make sure everything goes smooth and all. So I feel like from my course perspective, that can be something I can help with, like catechism. It's already online now, but maybe how can we make it better?
Right.
Which, let's say we can make it interactive so the children can still feel more interested in learning. Something like that. I never thought about this. I should think about this more.
Yeah. John, what about you?
For me, so I'm like Avi, and I actually thought of this, and I still can't really think of any specific subject that would relate back to relate back to Catholicism. But I would say that in general, engineering teaches you things like resourcefulness, I guess, and problem solving and analyzing and patience. I would say patience. So I guess in those sense, I can apply back into my ministry lah, and help out in brainstorming or being resourceful about how we can optimize certain things that we have, whether it's time or money. Yeah, in those things like that's like on the top of my mind that I can think of right now. I don't think any subjects can relate back to Catholicism, like flying up to space or something. So yeah.
It's probably not that far off. It's a possibility that could happen, but I mean, who knows, right? Especially with what's going on all around the world today. I mean, aerospace engineering, you could probably be helping design or build planes for the Pope, maybe. That's possible.
Who knows? You'll use the plane that we help design. Yeah, something like
true.
that.
So anyway, that brings us to the end of our podcast for today. We thank you all for joining us and discovering with us this whole different aspect of studying, and how it actually relates to holiness, because ultimately God has poured out his love and his knowledge into us, And it would really be a waste of everything that he has done if we do not put our knowledge to good use, to building his kingdom. He definitely wants us to know more about him. He wants us to take the steps to know more about him. And in the same way, he wants us to use what we know, our knowledge and our understanding of him, and through the infinite wisdom that he gives us, he wants us to help others achieve the same thing, that we all, in the end, that we all get to go into the kingdom of heaven. With all that said and done, we've come to the end of our session today. Thank you all for listening in. Continue to pray for us as we continue to pray for you as well. And let us bring more souls to heaven and make it crowded. Shalom. Peace, everyone. Bye.